How you guys doing tonight? I don't hear any energy tonight, man. I'm just go ahead and leave. I'll see y'all later. There's no energy. I need to hear some energy from y'all. This is an exciting topic. Somebody in here is going to become a millionaire tonight. Not tonight, but over the next year. Somebody's going to be rich off of this information. Now, we learned a lot today, didn't we? We got some knowledge. We learned a lot. We're going to grow because of the information tonight. Nick and Marlon explained some great things about the e-commerce business. Judah and James explained a lot of things about growth, business knowledge, and Instagram growth. But we can learn a little more, right? We can learn more. We can grow. But let's say it one more time. Let's hear the energy one more time. Because I like energy, right? So, what we're going to talk about today is a very, very important topic. It's something that I talk about a lot on my life. Before I start, one more thing. How many people has made money with me here? Let's do it again. How many people has made over $5,000? How many people, if you're in the virtual, drop some money bags in the chat right now, right? Because I want to see that. That's what I talk about on my lives. Now, for those who follow me, for those of you who follow my page, I want you to say, what is the number one thing that I say once an asset or a stock goes up that I predicted? There's one thing, who listened, right? Now, when I say that, people think that I'm being arrogant, or I'm being condescending, or I'm bragging. Well, I mean, I'm bragging a little bit, but but I don't say that to brag or whatever, mainly. I say that so people listen. Because in the markets around us, in real estate, stocks, cryptocurrency, there's trends, there's patterns, there's easily recognizable trends and patterns that we can understand, that we can identify, that will show us how to make money in the markets. Now, who's traded stocks before in this group? Right, we got a few. So, all of you guys were beginners at one point, right? So I'm gonna tell you a common thing that happens with beginners is that you buy a stock, right? Maybe your friend told you, maybe your cousin or something like that, but you buy it, right? So let's say you got it at like $10, something goes up to 15, right? And you guys hold it, even though you're up 50%. And then next day it may go to 17, now you're up 70%. Next day it may go up to 20, but you continue to hold it, right? Because you let greed take over. Now, greed's not bad. It's one human emotion. So the two emotions in the stock market are greed and fear, greed and panic, right? That's what governs the entire thing in all markets, right? So you guys are holding the stock, goes up 17, goes holding it. So you think that, hey, it can go to 25, it can go to 30. So you probably should have sold, right? You probably should have got rid of it, but you continue to hold that stock or asset or crypto or whatever. Even real estate, we do that, right? So then it continues to go up and you get greedy. The greed overwhelms you. One of the signs of greed overwhelming you is that you'll take out a calculator, right? And you'll say, look, man, if this asset goes to $40, I'm gonna have this much money, right? I'm gonna have, $100,000. If it goes up to 50, I can get that Benz. I can get a new house. I can put a down payment on something that I've really been wanting. Now, that's the most dangerous part because whenever the calculator comes out, whenever you start thinking and wishing and hoping and dreaming about how much money you can make, you've let emotions take over your trading, right? So that's why we want to discuss what's called the market cycles, because understanding this, knowing how it works, understanding what causes certain assets to go up and down will cause us to get rid of that emotion and replace it with knowledge, right? So go forward in the slide. So the four things we're going to talk about tonight is my story, right? Because in order to understand this, you got to know how I came to understand the market cycles. Now, it's not like a special strategy. It's not nothing that I'll tell you, look, man, follow my special strategy. This is the way you're going to get rich. No, this is something that's very, very obvious in the system. We're rich, the elite, the institutions have known for years. It's something that's obvious in there. So this cycle is explaining when certain people get into the market, right? So then I'm gonna discuss market cycles in general, how they work in real estate, how they work in investments, in stocks, in cryptocurrency. Then I'm gonna discuss how they work specifically in stocks and owns specifically in cryptocurrency, right? Next slide, please. So my story, right? In order to understand how I came to understand these things, we have to understand, what my story, right? So it was 2009, right? Right. So I'm in grad school studying computer science, right? And I'm studying a subset of software security called cryptology. Cryptology, right? So during that time, about a year or two in 2010, 2011, I discovered cryptocurrency. I discovered Bitcoin, right? So because I was already studying cryptology, the next obvious step was cryptocurrency. They're both based in the same technology, right? So I'm studying it, right? So I decided to buy some Bitcoin, right? And about $500 worth. And back then, nobody saw it as a Bitcoin. Nobody saw it as an investment, right? And I showed some of you guys my early purchases, a few of you guys, $80, $100 for a Bitcoin. And during that time, nobody saw it as an investment. Nobody saw it as like something you put money into and get out. It was something that techies like, software engineers, people that were into tech. So the first thing that happened to me is I go to a forum, right? And I'm talking about Bitcoin, something I'm excited about. And a dude tells me, so I'm in grad school. I'm kind of desperate, don't have no money, So a dude tells me, hey man, you give me that 500, I can flip it to 1,000 for you with this program I got. So guess what I did? I sent him the 500. Now, what do you guys think happened? I never got that money back. He disappeared and blocked me. Right? And the thing about it is that when he did that, I was actually laughing. I said, man, he got me. But because he got me, I said, what? I'm going to learn more about this. It's never going to happen again. I'm going to learn why certain things happen in crypto, certain things happen in investments, so that won't happen to me again, right? So it's hard for me to see that. So then I ended up quitting grad school. I started a company. I ended up quitting grad school. Like I said, I discovered Bitcoin around that time. And like I said, I started buying the Bitcoin. It went from like $80 to $300, went from $300 to $1,000. And I had a whole bunch of them, like hundreds of them at that time, right? So there was something that happened in the market. It was the MT Gox. And that was one of the first Bitcoin exchanges ever. So somebody got onto that exchange, they hacked it, and they stole like $50 million in Bitcoin. So the news around that was that Bitcoin's done. That it's insecure. So that means that it's over. Nobody's gonna be using that. So I panicked, sold everything I had for like half the price I would have had it at, $400 or $500. So 3 years go by, right? This is 2013. 2016 comes up. I'm not even following Bitcoin. Looking at it now, it's at $2,000, $318. I'm like, oh man, God dang it, man. I lost all that money. So I'm gonna figure out why Bitcoin does that. I'm gonna figure out why stocks do certain things, right? So that was called the habit, and we're gonna talk about that later, right? So during that 2015, 16, I said, this is never gonna happen to me again. I'm never gonna lose money. I'm gonna understand these cycles that happen in Bitcoin, these cycles that happen in stocks, so I can predict what's coming. And a lot of you guys that have followed me, I predicted the price of Bitcoin down to the month. Now, how many of you guys remember that? Down to the month, because I understood these cycles, right? So I'm in the middle of the cycle, right? So I don't have a lot of money. If you guys know, I went bankrupt a few years ago with a bad business, right? But I was in 2017, we're in the middle of the second Bitcoin cycle. So during that time, I said, man, I got to capitalize this. I don't have no money though. So I got to figure out a way to capitalize on this. So I do have my intelligence. I still have my engineering ability. So I'm going to create an algorithm built in a website to be able to rank certain cryptos. So me and my business partner, we decided to create that. 6 months later, we sold it for $2.25 million, right? So because I took advantage of that second cycle, right? So then crypto crashed, right? So then I'm thinking, but I sold, we had the $2 million in cash in the bank. I had half of that was $1 million after taxes. You ended up with like 700,000. Tax people take everything, but so I paid off my house. I paid off my student loans. I had like 80,000 in student loans. So I paid off my house, paid off my student loans. I'm left with about 400,000. Crypto crashed, right? So I put it all back in because I understood that the third cycle is coming, right? So 4 years later, third cycle comes, I'm up to like 2-3 million now, right? So let me see. So then the third Bitcoin halving coming. And it was back in early 2020. And I was telling, that's how I predicted the exact month that it would go up. If you guys have followed me, you know I talked about it from $3,000. Nobody else was talking about it. Nobody on Instagram was talking about it because it was down. People thought it was over, right? So at that time, I said, hey man, it's a good time to buy Bitcoin right now, $3,000. So some people listened, some people didn't. And I said around October, November, it's gonna go up, right? So at that time, some people listened, some people didn't, but it ended up going up the exact same month. Now it's at 50,000, right? So, and now what's coming up, we're in the middle of the third cycle. And we're gonna explain how these cycles work. You just gotta be patient with me. But now we're in the middle of the fourth. The fourth cycle is coming in 2024. So we're gonna prepare you guys for those cycles so that you can make money on every Bitcoin cycle that's coming up in the future. So let me change the slide. So first, we're gonna go over market cycles in general. Why they happen, the 4 different phases of the market cycle. Because remember, it's not only it's in real estate, it's in stocks and cryptocurrency. Any market, any financial market has market cycles, right? So next slide. So the market cycle explained, right? I can't hardly see the screen. I need glasses. Okay, so a market cycle can last anywhere between a few minutes or a few years, right? And there's certain markers that tell us what's gonna happen, right? So the thing about the market cycle is that unsavvy investors, people that are new, end up entering the market at the wrong cycles. At the highest point, what's called enthusiasm. Like there's something that I say on Instagram, right? And it's actually the rapper Future quote, right? It's a quote by Future. And he says, nobody notices until the jet's in the sky, right? So when the jet's on the ground, nobody pays attention to it. But once it takes off, everybody's looking up at it. And people do the same thing with financial assets, financial instruments, right? Is that they don't realize something's gonna go up until it's already in the air, right? And that's part of the market cycle. It's part of the psychology of the market cycle, right? So stock market and crypto bubbles are caused by the market cycles. That's what causes these bubbles. That's what causes these things to happen, right? Next slide. So the market cycle, like we talked about before, is refers to the certain phases that happen in you know, when assets go up, assets go down. Different stages of the market cycle. You know, we'll respond to different market forces, right? And third, man, it's hard to read that, man. So new market cycles are usually they usually start with some kind of innovation. Some type of new paradigm that says, look, man, maybe the market changed, maybe the Fed, like this new market cycle, right? In stocks, it was caused by the Fed cutting the rate, right? The stocks dropped because of the pandemic. And that's actually when you should have been getting in. That was what we call the accumulation phase. And we're gonna talk about that later. That's when you should be looking at, but most people, the unsavvy investors, the new investors, that's when they panic, right? So that's what's called giving money to the market, because you panic at the wrong times and you should be buying, and you buy when you should be selling, right? And that's what people do. And that's why people are unsuccessful in these things, because they do what's opposite. They do an opposite thing they're supposed to. Next slide. So a market cycle is made up of 4 parts. The first one is called the accumulation phase, right? In this phase, the market is stagnant. And this isn't, remember, this isn't real estate. This is in stocks. This is in crypto. The market is stagnant, right? So nothing's happening, nobody's talking about it. In this phase, one of the key markers in this phase is that you'll hear media reports, right? People will say, look, man, this asset's done. It's never coming back. One good example is New Orleans after Katrina, right? How much money have they made on that now, right? So that's the real estate market going through a certain phase. So an event happened, was Katrina, the hurricane, drove the market prices down, right? So that was the accumulation phase. When people say, oh man, the water's never gonna recede. It's never coming back. It's over, right? But what happened? People have made billions of dollars on that land because the smart people, the smart investors got in when it was low. Like the saying is that you buy when there's blood in the streets, right? You buy when everything's down, when nobody's thinking about it. And that's called the accumulation phase. That's when the smart money, the banks, the institutions get into these assets, right? When nobody's paying attention, the average person is looking elsewhere, right? Then we move into what's called the markup phase, right? So the way that this works, like remember in the accumulation phase, we hear news reports. of doom and gloom. It's over. Maybe crypto's done. Maybe real estate's done. Maybe the stock market will never recover, right? The second phase is is markup, right? So what that means is that you'll see a rise in the asset. Sometimes it seems like out of nowhere, right? So the banks, institutions get in when the market's flat. Once they get their stake in, the asset starts going up, right? And that's when you will hear like some of the pro traders, some of the people who know a little bit are starting getting into it, right? At the beginning of the markup phase. And then all of a sudden, the asset will go up astronomically, exponentially. You will see we saw it in Dogecoin. We see it in a lot of stocks. We see that, in a lot of things, all of a sudden it goes way high up. At that point, you got friends calling you. You got your neighbors calling. You got people at work. Get into this stock. Get into this asset because it's going to keep going, right? The smart money is getting out at that time. There's a saying that says, you sell while everything's going up. And that's because in this certain phase, right, you want to get out. I'm going to tell you why. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to tell you why. Because the third phase is what's called distribution, right? One of the markers of this phase is that everybody you know is talking about it. Your mom, your cousin. And one of the things I tell people, I said, pick somebody in your life, your grandmother, maybe your cousin, maybe somebody you know or have a relation with, and say, and if you think this person would never know about this investment, you use them as a marker. Once that person calls you and talks about it, it's about over. It's about to crash. And that's what I always tell people is like, that's what's called distribution phase. It's the third phase before the crash. Is that everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about how you're gonna get rich. You see a lot of ads on Facebook, Instagram, all this stuff telling you to get in this asset, get in this stock, get into this crypto, right? That's called distribution phase. And that's when the smart money's already out, right? They've already sold. They're waiting for the crash to then get back in, right? And then you got the final phase, which is the most identifiable out of all four phases. It's called the markdown phase. Now, the first three phases, you really don't know if you're in it or not. It's hard to identify when you're in these phases. Sometimes you kind of know, you kind of don't, but the markdown phase is the most identifiable because a lot of times, especially in crypto, you're gonna see a 90% drop. In stocks, you may see 34% drop in all stocks, right? Because that's when all the distribution people who didn't make no money start giving up. They start selling. They're like, I got into this at like so this amount, now I'm not making no money, it's time to give up. Then it drives the stock, drives the asset down, right? Sometimes it can be 90%. In crypto, for the last two cycles, it's been about 80, 90%. Like in the last cycle, Bitcoin hit 20,000, it was the highest it's ever been. It was back in 2018. It dropped all the way back down to 3,000. So what is that? That's a 70% drop, 75% drop. Now, when this happens, when the markdown phase starts to happen, now it recycles itself, right? Now we're back in what? Anybody know? Accumulation, right? We're back in accumulation phase. And in certain markets, it could last 3 months, it could last years, it could last a few days. But that's when that smart money, you'll hear it again. You'll hear that same thing in the news. You'll hear the same thing, man, it's over. It'll never come back. It's done. You might as well just go ahead and give up, And then that's when the banks, the institutions, the rich people get back in. And then the cycle starts all over again, right? Next slide. So let's talk a little bit more about each individual phase, right? So it's hard for me to. So like we talked about, is you'll see articles in the media talking about doom and gloom in the accumulation phase. It's over. You might as well give up. You might as well don't even try, man. There's other markets out there that are doing better. So just forget about this one right now, right? And all the while, these banks are getting in, these institutions, and these rich people are getting into this. And a lot of times you understand is that banks, I don't really know if it's some kind of inside trading, and nobody knows what's happening, right? It could be, a lot of times like the analysts on TV, and I'm not saying a conspiracy theory, right? But I'm just saying, so the analysts that you see on CNN and all that stuff, they're paid by banks. So they're going to say whatever the banks tell them to say because they're paid. Like if you look at the analyst, he's talking about a stock. At the bottom, it says Wells Fargo, or it says he's an analyst for the Bank of America or whatever. So they're paid by the bank, so they do whatever the banks tell them to say. So if a bank's getting into an asset, they have to do it slowly or to drive the price up. So they get into it slowly over accumulation phase, And all the while you hear these gloom and doom things like Bitcoin back in 18. It's over. Criminals using it. Might as well forget it. It'll never come back. Right? The price went from 20 to 3,000. China is cracking down, or India just banned it. Right? If you guys remember that cycle, right? And then everybody forgot about it for 3 years, right? You didn't hear much about it. Nobody was talking about it. Your friends already sold theirs. They already got out of it. And then all of a sudden, it comes back up. Now, what causes it to go back up? And the thing about Bitcoin, and we're going to discuss this later, is there's an identifiable marker in crypto that tells you when it's going to go. It's one of the most easiest ways to make money that I've ever seen in my life. All you got to do is understand what's happening. There's a signal or what's written in the code of Bitcoin that tells you it's going to go up. How many of you guys knew that? What is it called? Anybody know what it's called? The halving, right? So I'm going to talk about this later, but I want to get into a little bit of it right now. Is right in Bitcoin every 4 years. Okay, let's get back to a little. So Bitcoin, every 10 minutes, 6 1/4 Bitcoin get created through the system, right? That's why Bitcoin's coming to being. So every 10 minutes, you got 6 1/4 Bitcoin. So every 4 years, it's written in hard coded in the code of software code of Bitcoin. They're going to cut the supply in half. Every 4 years that happens. So 2024, it's going to be cut in half. So you're going to have 3.75 or something like that. So every 10 minutes, it'll be 3.75. Now, imagine what other assets we got out there. We got oil. We got gold. We got certain minerals. So imagine if the news came out tomorrow and they said, look, the amount of oil that's coming out the ground is going to be cut in half tomorrow. What do you think would happen to the gas prices? They're going to go way up, right? Because the supply that's coming out of the ground has been cut. So in Bitcoin, that happens every 4 years, right? So let's move on. So I want to talk a little bit more about the markup phase, right? The markup phase is the second phase, right? So like we said, you'll see pro traders starting to get in. You may not hear much about it because we don't hear much about NASDAQ until it gets to the end of this phase, right? So you'll hear pro traders getting in. There'll be, like I said, it'll be a slow rise of it. Then you'll see an astronomical or exponential growth, right? And that's when all your friends and stuff are going to say, hey man, get on this asset, buy this thing or whatever. You hear a lot of calls about it, telling you to get in this, right? So the markup phase, like we said, is when the smart money gets out, right? And it leads into distribution. Next slide. So like we said, the distribution phase, right? Everybody's talking about this. Everybody's telling you to get into it. Like if you remember when Bitcoin went up, in Bitcoin, we're still not out of the phase yet. We're still kind of in markup, I believe, or a small, accumulation phase. But if you remember when Bitcoin rose to 65 or whatever, everybody was talking about it, right? Oh man, buy this Bitcoin, buy this whatever. I got a class that teaches you how to make 100,000 in whatever crypto's out there. Then when crypto dropped, that disappeared. Everybody was taking off their profiles. They don't want to be associated with it, right? There was a crypto expert 2 weeks ago. Now they don't want to be associated with it because they don't understand what's happening, right? But that's what we see in the distribution phase. We see those kind of things. And that's with stocks, that's with anything, right? So people say, look, man, I'm a real estate guru. I can flip houses, whatever. When we get to distribution, they start taking, they got to go somewhere else because they don't understand what's exactly happening. So next slide. And like we talked about, the markdown phase, the most identifiable phase there is. But the sad part of that is it's too late, right? Because once you identify it, you're down 60%. You see what I'm saying? But you're like, oh man, I remember that conference that Armando talked at. And now, now I'm down 70%. I guess that's what he meant, right? But you're already in the middle. That's why it's important to get out at the right phase, to get out in the markup phase of assets or the beginning of distribution and be happy with your profits. If I made 80, 90% on the stock, I made 80, 90% on real estate, I made 80, 90% on crypto, I'm out. Wherever it goes, I don't care. right? And I always give an analogy about money in business, in real estate, in investing or whatever, is that a lot of times we feel like we got to get all this money right now in stocks. I got to get every ounce. I'm going to try to sell at the absolute top, right? That's impossible, right? You try to get as much as you can out of this stock, much as you can out of this crypto, much as you can out of this house. Right now in the real estate market, that's happening. Well, I'm going to hold my house because it keeps going up, right? You're trying to get as much out of it as you can. But there's an analogy that I always talk about when it comes to money, when it comes to finance, when it comes to different things of that nature, right? Is that when I go outside right now, there's 2 water fountains outside, right? So I go get a drink of water, and let's say there's 4 people behind me, right? I get a drink of water, and I let those other 4 people get some, right? I'm not worried about this dude or that woman or this getting some money. Getting some water. I'm not running up to the water fountain with 2 buckets trying to get it, because I may not get water again. I got to fill these buckets up because I understand one thing, right? There's enough water for everybody. Water is plentiful. It's not rare. I can go back to the fountain and get some tomorrow or in an hour, whenever I'm thirsty, right? So I'm not panicking. I'm not trying to fill up my buckets. I'm not trying to get all I can because I know it's going to be there tomorrow. But that's how we have to see money in general. And I was telling some people outside earlier, right? Money is plentiful. And a lot of times we believe that it's scarce, right? We think that, I got to get all the money. I got to watch my money. I'm lucky that I even got a job, because who would pay me to do this, right? Because who was going to give me the money? Money is so scarce. I gotta be careful just to keep my job, right? But if you're valuable, if you know what you're doing, you get a job somewhere else because money's plentiful. When I sold that company, I'm gonna tell you this, it was $2.25 million, right? It was a publicly traded company in Canada. And it made me understand how plentiful money is, right? Is when I sold the company, they said, hey man, send over your financials. Sent over the financials. 2 weeks later, they wire transferred us $2 million, like an eBay transaction, because they had billions, They had so much money, it didn't matter. And at that point, I realized money's everywhere. It's plentiful. Anybody can get in the stock market, invest in business or whatever. You just have to change your mindset. And by understanding the market cycles, you can change it, right? So let's move on. So if you look at this chart here, this is a chart of the market cycle, right? If we take a look at it, this is the psychology of it. It's how people think at different phases, right? So we look at at the beginning of it, right? We got a little, I can't hardly see it, but let me see. We got disbelief, right? So let's say in the stock market, let's say the stock market drops a lot, right? Let's say after the pandemic, right? So they dropped a lot in the pandemic. You guys remember? It dropped a lot, right? It was down, I think it went down 40%. And a lot of people are saying it's over, man. It's not coming back. This pandemic's gonna take over the world. Stocks ain't coming back, right? That's what they said. So then we moved in the accumulation phase, which is at the beginning of that chart, right? So people started saying, look, man, it ain't never coming back. The pandemic's gonna take over the world. It's not coming back, right? And then we move into hope. The market comes up a little bit. Remember, this is all markets, real estate, crypto, whatever financial market there is. There's a little bit of hope, right? Maybe this is gonna stay. Maybe it's coming up a little bit, right? And then we got optimism, right? And this is, when we get into this phase, we're at the beginning of the markup phase, right? So like I said, the pro traders, everybody starts getting more optimistic. You may see a few articles in the news about the stocks or whatever market coming up a little bit, right? So that part right there, when you see that rise in the chart, that's the markup phase. What happened there? I can't see the, So, and then we got belief, we got thrill. And this is the part you got to worry about. It's that hope and that enthusiasm, right? That, oh my God, this is going to make everybody rich, right? We all going to get rich off of this, right? Everybody's getting rich off. That's when you're at the highest point of what's called euphoria, right? And that, after euphoria starts, you probably should already been out of it, Because once you get that, once the psychology of the market starts getting that, you're right at the end of a crash. And that's when I told you guys earlier, on an individual level, when you bring out the calculator and you start calculating how much you're gonna get, if it goes up to this, it goes to that. What you're at that point is you're at max euphoria. You think it's gonna keep going up, but a lot of times, for some reason, for a real reason, that's when it's about to crash. Right when everybody starts thinking about it like that, it's about to crash, right? Then it crashes all the way down. People don't believe it. There's always a bounce back called a dead cat bounce whenever the market's dropping. Then people say, oh, maybe it's coming back. But it never reaches the previous high. So you have a stock, it goes up, and then it'll come down and it'll go back up. It never reaches that previous high that it was before. Then it crashes all the way down, right? Then it's back into the accumulation phase. Next slide. So let's look at the, what year does it start? 1985 to current day, right? That's the stock market chart. Now, what does it look like? Exactly like the market cycle, right? It's identifiable when you look backwards, right? Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit more about the cryptocurrency market cycle, right? Because this is the one that I believe is the easiest to make money. This is the one that I believe is that we can see that marker, that halving that we talked about, that causes the cycle. Like in stocks, it's hard to find what causes the cycle. It may be the Fed cuts the rate, some kind of innovation or something like that. But in crypto, it's obvious. That's why I like it so much, right? So before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about, I know some of y'all out there understand cryptocurrency. I know some of you guys know what it is, but some of you guys don't, right? Not everybody understands, but in order to understand it, we got to talk a little bit about what crypto is, right? Because everybody knows, man, I can put money into this, get it out, it's an investment, right? But whenever we put our money into something, we need to understand it. We need to understand what's going on. Come on, my friend tells me, man, this thing called Bitcoin, you put your money into it, pull it out 6 months from now. No, we got to understand it. We got to know what we're dealing with to be able to make the right decisions, right? So cryptocurrency is a type of currency, right? It's a type of currency, but it's built on scarcity. And I'm gonna tell you something weird about crypto, right? Bitcoin in general, we're talking about Bitcoin here, which is the #1 crypto. It was created by a dude called Satoshi that nobody knows who he is. You know, isn't that weird? Nobody's ever been able to identify him. Right? So that's weird, but it leads to the power of cryptocurrency, right? So move on, cryptocurrency. Okay, so move on. So change the slide. So I want to talk about the 3 cryptocurrency features. Then we're going to move into how we can check that market cycle and be able to use what we learn to be able to predict what's coming next, right? There's three features of cryptocurrency, right? It's decentralization. That means that in most cryptocurrencies, there's nobody you can call. There's no third party. There's no real third party, right? So if I go to Western Union, I'm gonna send some money to somebody, right? I can walk up to Western Union, another third party. So if something happens, maybe I got somebody I can call on tech support, somebody I can ask for help, but you can't do that in most cryptos. Bitcoin specifically. Once you send the money, it's gone. That's why scammers lie. I know you guys see a lot of those on Instagram, those people that right under the post, you can flip your money 10 ways or whatever. Oh, follow this dude, man. You know what I'm saying? Those spammy bot comments. The reason why, and they're gonna tell you to send the money in Bitcoin because you can't get it back. You know, that's the reason why they go, oh, you gotta go down. They will even tell you, send you directions to the ATM nearest your house, the Bitcoin ATM. And they'll walk you through how to send them that money because they know once you send it, you can't get it back. Right? But it's also what leads to the power of it because there's no third party in the middle. There's no government that control it, right? So we got the second thing is transparency. So every transaction that happens, we can see it on what's called the blockchain. And we're gonna discuss what the blockchain is because in order for us to understand its having this coming, we gotta understand how the blockchain works, which is the underlying technology in Bitcoin, right? And then we're gonna talk about what's called immutability. That's what we just talked about. Once a transaction happens, you can't erase it. It's there forever. So move on. So here's a quick chart of what decentralization is, right? So if we take it to the left side, we're gonna talk about a centralized system, right? Centralized system has one point of failure, right? So most of us on Instagram, most of us on social media, right? So what happens when Instagram servers go down? We can't what? We can't access our pictures. We can't access our videos. We just got to wait for them to fix it, right? Because it's centralized. That means there's one point of failure. We're all the nodes under it, where it's only one point of failure. Once that point fails, we just got to wait on them to fix it. So with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrency, it's what's called decentralized. So there's not one person or one central entity that can fail and cause it to break down. That's what leads to the power of it. That's what leads to the genius of it, is that it can't be stopped. And I'm telling you guys this because I want you to understand the power before you understand how powerful the investment is. Right, next slide. So we're going to talk about the blockchain, right? The blockchain is the underlying technology in most cryptocurrencies, right? So the way that the blockchain works is that when I send a transaction, right? I send anybody here a transaction, right? There's certain people, what's called mining. Anybody heard of Bitcoin mining? Yeah, so what Bitcoin mining is that people will use their computer, they will lend their computers to the Bitcoin network. And they'll say, hey man, they're very, very powerful computers. They're more powerful than your phone, any other like PC, anything. They're specialized to process Bitcoin transactions. So you can say, hey, look, I'm gonna put my mining rig or computer on this network, and I'm gonna, all it does all day is process transactions. It's gonna get a fee for doing so, right? So what they do, what this does is that it figures out, it processes transactions. Once a certain amount of transactions are processed, it adds the block to what's called the blockchain. The block of transactions, or the list of certain transactions within a certain, mostly around 10 minutes, every 10 minutes, all the transactions that happen get added to the database called the blockchain, right? Let's move on. So I want to show you a quick animation of how it works, right? So we talked about a block, we talked about how it works. We talked about miners, right? So you got these computers that people would donate to the Bitcoin network or lend to the Bitcoin network. They plug it up. Now it's part of the Bitcoin network. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do this, right? So I plug it in. Now I'm ready to go, right? So all it does all day is just process transaction. I get money for doing that. You know, it gets some money. And anybody remember that Marin Riot call I did last year? Anybody? Let's see some hands. So we made a lot of money on that, right? Like 20 times. Right? So every dollar you put in, you got 20 back, right? But we were able to understand this particular trade because we understood how mining worked. We understood how those profits work in mining. That's why I'm telling you guys about it now, because there's still opportunity out there. Now, BT it's down now, but it was based on that, right? So the way that the blockchain works is that we got miners out there, right? People, most of them are companies now. They used to be individuals, but a lot of companies, right? So companies have these big warehouses full of mining machines, and all they do is process transactions all day, and they get fees for it, right? So what they do is that every 10 minutes, all the mining machines in the world, they come up with a list of transactions. If I send you a Bitcoin, send you a Bitcoin, send you a Bitcoin, everybody in the world sending Bitcoin, and once they get up to what's called a block, every 10 minutes, it gets added to the entire Bitcoin database and gets distributed across the network. So that entire database is on every machine in the world. So if one machine goes down, two machines goes down, it's still everywhere. So that's the reason why it can't be stopped. That's the reason why it can't fail, because every mining rig, every computer in the world is connected to the network, has the full copy of every transaction, right? So what happens every 10 minutes, all the transactions come in a block. The block gets added to the overall chain. Can you go through the slide? It's gonna be an animation. So that block goes onto the blockchain, and the entire blockchain gets copied to every PC or every computer in the world, right? So see, a new one comes on. And it just happens every 10 minutes, right? Every 10 minutes that happens. And when the block gets added, whoever discovered the block, and that's enough, I don't want to get into that, but it's more, whoever discovered that block gets 6.25 Bitcoins, right? But it's mostly distributed across multiple machines. So like we said, here's another chart of how the blockchain works. So click through. So the blockchain, so when the blockchain does create that block and adds to the blockchain, it gets distributed to multiple people. Go through again. So now everybody, all those 4 people who run mining rigs got a copy of the whole blockchain, right? The whole database of every transaction in the world, right? Move on. So we'll talk a little bit about Bitcoin, and we're going to talk about the halving, which causes the price to rise. which I've made money, or at least $1 million in each one of these, each one of these cycles, right? So like we talked about Bitcoin, which is scary. I know to some people, is that there's a guy named Satoshi. All they got is emails of him sending to certain developers or whatever. Then he created Bitcoin and he disappeared. Nobody knows who he is. Isn't that a little weird? It scares some people. They're like, what if this dude come back? What if he have control of the network? What if he can delete Bitcoin? But the way that he created it, the way that he created it, even he can't change it. Even he can't stop it, because the way that they created was in cryptology, and he can't even stop it if he wanted to. Nobody can. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it's such a good investment right now. That's why we're going to teach you guys how to make money based on the next halving, and also in this cycle, right? So, and this is what we're going to talk about, right? The Bitcoin halving is coming up. Right? The last one was in May of 2020. And people always say, Armando, man, how did you know what month, down to the month, when Bitcoin was going to blow up? Before we asked that, how many people made money on that? I mean, how many people made money on that, understanding how the Bitcoin was going to blow up? And we got 2 people, 4 people, got 6 people. Because in March, April of last year, now it was around May, right? The halving happened. We talked about what the halving was, right? It's hard-coded in the Bitcoin network that every 4 years, we're going to cut the supply in half. The amount of Bitcoins that get generated every 10 minutes. Before it was 12, and it was what, 12 and a half? Now it's 6 1/4, right? So once that happened, you know, the supply's been cut, it's stagnant because we're still in accumulation phase. But the smart money, the banks, the institutions, they understand that it's no way it's not going to go up. I'm not saying guaranteed, because I don't like to say guaranteed investment, so I don't want y'all, but it's almost the surest thing I've ever seen in my life, right? And that's why I'm able to predict it so well. And I'm not saying I'm some kind of genius. I mean, I'm a little bit of a genius, but I'm just joking. but no, I'm just joking with you guys. But anybody can understand it, right? Because it's obvious. And that you just have to get that information in your head. You got to be aware of it, right? And then you have to understand it, right? That's it. Right, so important event, Bitcoin halving is coming up. So it's already happened in May of 2020. There was an accumulation phase after that. About 3 or 4 months, the price went way up, right? Because we went into markup. We went back into, we're not in distribution yet, we're still in markup. Markup's gonna end probably around December this year. January, February, we're gonna be like in distribution, it's gonna fall down right after that. Like it always does. Last 2 cycles down 80%, 90%. But once that happens, that's the time we get into it. That's the time when we start looking at it, because we're in a certain phase where the prices are depressed, right? And that's when you get into these things. This is true in the stock market. This is true in real estate. This is true in cryptocurrency. All right, next slide. So I'm gonna talk about putting it all together. We learned a lot. And it's 45 minutes, I believe. I wanted more time, but they wouldn't give it to me. So I want to stay here about 2 hours, but I know y'all gotta go somewhere tonight, so I don't want to hold you up too much, but I do like teaching a lot. So if they didn't stop me, I'll be up here 3 or 4 hours. So, you know. but like I said, now we're going to put it all together. Right? We learned a lot today. You know, we learned about stock market. We learned about how to market cycles. So we learned a little bit about crypto, right? But how do we put this together? How do we make money on this, right? How do we do that? Like we talked about, cycles exist in all markets, right? In all market cycles exist. In financial markets, I'm sorry. In all financial markets, these cycles exist. I think my mic come around. Put it back. All right, so that's good. So like I said, the smart money gets out at the right cycle, right? The smart money is able to move out in markup phase, right? And that's why the banks, the institutions, the rich make so much money, because they're able to remove emotion, that fear and greed we talked about earlier, and they make smart decisions based on where we are in the cycle, right? That's the reason why that people always say, how do rich get richer? Because they're smarter, not smart enough, but they understand certain things. They have access to certain information that we don't have. But because they understand this, because maybe their dads taught them, maybe their grandfathers taught them, maybe they had information, They're able to see it before we see it. That's how I was able to see it, right? How was I able to see that? Because I understood what was coming. I understood that having an event, I understood that when you cut the supply of something, the price is almost guaranteed to go up. Next slide. So let's sum it up, right? So next slide. So we talked about a lot. We had a lot of great speakers here tonight. We did have a lot, right? And they talked about some great things, right? So we learned a lot. Let me see some. I want to hear some excitement about, how much you learned today, how much you grew. So I need some claps here, right? This was a great event, right? So I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot today. I learned a lot about certain subjects that I didn't even know existed. That drop by Nick and Marlon, what did he get, 80,000? What was it? $75,000 in a day, right? Then we got James coming up telling his story. It was right there. And we got Judah with his enthusiasm about his business, right? So we had a great time tonight. We did a lot of great things, right? So let's sum it up a little bit, right? So we learned about Bitcoin, we learned about the halving, we learned how it can work. We learned how we were able to make that money, how we were able to understand how these things are gonna work, how we're able to apply it, right, into the future, right? So with that being said, I'm gonna give you guys limited questions, right? I can't stay up all day, they're getting mad at me right now. Go ahead. Excuse me? Okay, so my Instagram is Tall Guy Tycoon. It's because maybe because I'm short or something, I don't know. But it's TALLGUY Tycoon, TYCOON. Right? So you guys got that? Did I speak too fast? Some I speak a little fast. Go ahead. Nah, they don't get a video on this. I'm sorry, because it's not my material. So it belongs to Upgrade Conference. So anybody else have any questions? Go ahead. The last part, what was it? Because you talk about like greed, right? Like you're in there, you stay too long, you get greedy, you lose money and whatnot. But back in the day when you were buying Bitcoin for like $80, you just held it. Yeah, I didn't know what cycle I was in back then. I didn't know. I didn't understand this stuff back then. If you were greedier, in a sense, you would have been better off. Not necessarily, because me personally, I didn't understand that it was an investment at all. I was spending them. I was spending them at restaurants, spending online and stuff like that. I didn't really see it as an investment. I saw that later. Once the price went up, later on during the second marks, I started understanding it. You think now moving forward, it's better to just buy and hold it as an investment? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a real good question. So because we understand this happening, because we understand what's coming, it is easier to hold Bitcoin because every 4 years it's going to go up, right? If we're like, here's a good question, is if we try to predict what market cycle when it's a little bit harder. But if we hold it, it's going to go up every 4 years. Unless something crazy happens, like the government blocks it, we don't know what's going to happen with that. That's why you got to practice risk management. But it is going to go up every 4 years. A lot of experts say within 10 years, it's going to be $1 million or higher. So it's a lot easier in anything, stocks, crypto, to just buy and hold, right? And I'm gonna tell you one thing before I leave, because I want you guys to understand this. I know they're like going like this, they want me to end. But here's one more thing I gotta tell you. So one time, a few years ago, I was sitting with a financial investor for Raymond James, right? And he said, and I was sitting down at lunch, and he said, Armando, what kind of accounts do you think make the most money in our customers, among our customers? I said, what do you mean, like rich people? He said, no. I said, billionaires? He said, no, not billionaires. I said, man, what is it then? I don't know. He said, people that either have deceased or people that have forgot their passwords. Because they ain't looking at it no more. They're not trying to figure out the cycles. They're not trying to like time the trades, right? So like I said, the buy and hold method is the best way for any type of investment. So I appreciate you guys coming out. I appreciate you guys learning and growing with me, right? And everybody else too. So thank you for the opportunity. Hope you guys have a great night.
Clouds were to drop me, then I'd fall out the sky. I don't really know why I'm here. I guess I'm just here for the ride. I swear it feels like I'm
dropping the jam. Now that's what I call a conference right there. That's what I call a conference right there. Everybody put the energy in your hands. Give it up for all the great speakers tonight. Give it up for all the great speakers tonight. That's what I'm talking about. Look, this is what we want to do. We want to bring all the speakers up. We want to bring all the speakers up to the stage. But before we do that, we have Nick and Marlon with World Envision about to show us what they live drop was today. Ooh. Oh, my mama. Let's go. Let's go. They did 35K in 15 minutes. 35K in 15 minutes. Oh, yeah. Let's go, Marlon.
Wait. Before we even do this, I'm sorry. I need all my speakers and panelists to get on this stage, and I need y'all to give them a round of applause. Because, man, hey, we got to give them a round of applause. We got to shout them out. And we want to give you guys a shout out. Let's clap it up for yourself for being at this conference, for being at this event, for believing in yourself, for networking with us. We appreciate everything, man. I'm gonna just bring the mic down to everybody so that they can have a couple closing remarks, and then I'll take it back from there. But I'm Marlon Watts. I'm the co-owner and CEO of World Envision. I really appreciate everybody for coming out here from the bottom of my heart. VIP on Gold. Can't wait to see you guys later. Have some fun. Continue to take this thing to the next level. Anybody in the general mission that wants to upgrade to Gold or VIP to come to these next events, that's also fine with us. Please don't shy away from it. Thank you again, man. I appreciate it. Marlon Watts. Here you go, baby.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Brandis. I do branding. You can follow me if you haven't started already. Branded by Brandis. That's BRANDYCE. Thank you guys for coming out and listening to us. Thank you.
Hey, you guys, my name is Tanisha. You can call me Coach T. My Instagram is mogul_maker, and I am a six-figure business coach. I want to help you guys make some money and help you operate in your unique lane.
What's going on? James Hill, CEO of Black Millionaires. The last thing I want to say is information does not change your situation. Applied information will change your situation. So don't come here and listen to all these 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs and get inspired and go home and tell your wife or your husband or your kids and do nothing and say you're going to do something next week, and then it never comes, right? And then people look at you as you're wasting your time when you're coming to these conferences. You guys actually came to the conference, you showed up. So you guys are going to be the next millionaires in your family, right? And then, we are in a sensitive environment, right? We are in a sensitive environment. So it's a lot of people who couldn't physically show up, but they didn't have an excuse, right? So they showed up virtually. So if you on there virtually, you showed up as well. So that's pretty much what I want to wrap it up and say. Apply the information you got from here. If you're on the edge, just go do it. Just do it. So go ahead.
Hi guys, it's me, Brittany, owner of Your Brands Law Firm. Follow me at Your Brands Lawyer. And listen, I just want you to protect the brand you're investing in, period.
Nicholas, designer and marketer of World Envision. I just want to say thank y'all for just coming out, come and listen, come and get these gems. Appreciate everybody that talked to me one-on-one. Thank y'all so much. Also want to give a huge shout out to our hosts, because them boys energy was on 10. So thank y'all for doing that for us. And once again, shout out to everybody that came virtually. Shout out all y'all. We really appreciate y'all. We definitely got to do this again.
Hey, I hope y'all really enjoyed yourselves. I hope y'all really learned something. I really appreciate y'all for actually coming out. Like that means the world to all of us. And so like y'all didn't have to be here. Y'all could have been anywhere else, but y'all chose to feed y'all minds, feed y'all spirit with the things that can help y'all upgrade y'all lives. So y'all keep on doing it and go out, like James was saying, go and apply this information. And remember, marketing and sales, or who remembers? Yeah, there you go. And some people been asking me, do I do one-on-ones as well as a group coaching? 10. I'm gonna just do 10 of y'all, all right? After we get out of here, just 10 or whatever. I got so much time, all right? But people have been asking, so I'll do 10, okay? All right, y'all be blessed.
So like I said, I appreciate you guys coming out. This has been a great event. Like a lot of great speakers, a lot of great knowledge right now. Really, like Judah said, you got, what's today, Saturday? You guys could have been anywhere. You used the Saturday up or to come here and learn. And a lot of people won't do that. Everybody rather be somewhere else at the park, whatever. But you guys have said, look, man, I'm gonna make sure my family has generational wealth. I'm gonna make sure that my family's I'm taken care of. I'm making sure that I'm able to get that wealth, get that mindset change. So like I said, I want you guys out there to pat yourselves on the back right now. Hey. Because a lot of people don't make the decision. People don't make that decision that you guys made to come out. So you made a great decision. You guys have made a fantastic decision to come out here, and I appreciate each and every one of you.
Yep. Hey, so I'll go ahead and take it from here. Armando made a great prediction. So we're gonna see. I want to ask anybody else in the audience where they think we are. So we have predictions. Give me some predictions. Give me some predictions. Here. Huh?
70,000. Hello.
Well, we got, y'all broke the surprise? Just
hello.
All right, hey, just go on and put it up there. Hey, this is within 20, this is not even within 24 hours. You know what I mean? Me and my partner, we've been doing this since we was 14 years old. We're gonna continue to do this. I tell people all the time, we're gonna have the biggest brand in the world. And I mean that. We're gonna be the biggest brand in the world. So thank you guys for continuing to make that happen. I got a couple questions, all right? Because we also been getting a lot of things about coaching, and we normally don't do that. So I wanna know who would be interested if we did have a coaching class. Let me get you to clap. Let me get you to clap. All right. Another question. How many of you all got mad information from our presentation?
Man, who will make 70,000 in a day?
In that coaching, I just want to have a couple of questions. What would you guys like to see in that coaching community? Couple of hands, give me. Facebook ads. Balancing your books. Okay, how to capitalize off Instagram. Starting a website. Masterclass, 7 steps. Scaling. All right, so we get all of that in one community class. Let me get you to clap it up if you want to join that. All right. So I do have a special guest, because this is our first time doing something like this. My boy right there, Corey from Support Black College. Anybody know Support Black College? Clap him up. So he told us that the amount of value that we have, and even from his current experience, that we should be charging $40,000. We were like, whoa, whew. So we're like, man, you serious? So we decided that that is probably is a $20,000 value, but today, we're gonna make it $10,000. And if you want to come out here, you can
bro. People, look, bro. People came here, people showed up. They got like 200 people on here virtually.
I understand. All right.
At least 5,000.
All right.
Only 5 people though.
5,000, only 5 people though. We only taking 5 people. We're gonna do eight Zoom classes, and that's gonna be 1 time a week.
Me and Marlon.
You don't have to pay $5,000 today. You only have to put down a deposit of $500. Let me get a hand clap if you'd be interested in that. All right. So anybody that's interested in that master class, you can go ahead on out after this and get your information taken at our booth. We honestly appreciate everybody from coming out here, and we need one more special thing for y'all. We trying to get our Instagram pumped up. So who got the phone?
Talk to him. We need to get on video.
And when I go 1, 2, 3, I need everybody to say upgrade. All right. Y'all ready?
We need a test.
All right, wait, hold on. Let me make sure.
Test them out.
Let me hear y'all say hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I say hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I say hell yeah. I think they're ready for it. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. play that outro for us. Play that outro for us as we leave.
Thank y'all so
Everybody is
much.
welcome to leave out with us. Continue to shop with all our beautiful vendors and speakers. Once again, if you want to attend the event later, that event starts at 7:30. VIP and Gold. The event starts at 7:30. Anybody need more information about that, please come and see us. All right? Hey, run that money longer for me one more time, man. Run that money longer for me one more time as we exit the building, please. Hey, thank y'all once again.
Yeah, it do not matter. Turn to a savage, pocket got fatter. She call me daddy. Smoking that gas, got all that Zany, she on a powder. Nowadays I am on my head, I got sadder. Money got longer, speaker got louder, car got faster. Turn to a savage, pocket got fatter. She call me daddy. Smoking that gas, got all that Zany, she on a powder. Nowadays I am on my head, I got sadder. Money got longer.